Unfiltered. I'm your host, Chucks McFarlane. I much appreciate other perspectives and have the opportunity to learn from one another. Our stories are powerful and needed for the world. It took a pandemic like this for us to think. I have focused on using my art as a tool.
Because the opportunities are vast.
And we have a crucial moment on which to engage in that study right now. We want more people on board for justice, equality, and liberty. I'm your host here, Jeff McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. I'm your host, Chucks McFarlane. I much appreciate other perspectives and have the opportunity to learn from one another.
Our stories are powerful and needed for the world.
It took a pandemic like this for us to think. I have focused on using my art as a tool.
Because the opportunities are vast.
And we have a crucial moment on which to engage in that study right now. We want more people on board for justice, equality, and liberty. I'm your host here, Jeff McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Sunday evening. It is lovely to have all of you join us today on Unfiltered. I'm your host, Chaps McFarlane. Thank you for joining the show. Uh, Please, you know what to do when you join us. Like our videos, share, encourage others to join, start a watch party if you can. And also, do not forget you can participate in the conversation in our comment section. And we will be responding to all of your comments, questions, and also reading out some of your commentary on what is being discussed. We have a very, very good show for you today. It is packed, it is important. And I will bring our guest, Mr. Sam Fraser, who is going to be having a very important discussion with us today. My co-host, Wesley Petit, is here with us. We also have Kaya Pantier, who will be bringing us a segment on community vibes with Kaya. So it is a packed show. But first, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take some time to touch on an issue that has arisen in the last 48 hours. And I wanted to just make some commentary on that. So, excuse me. Uh, there is a lot. It is a trying time for many of us, and there is a lot going on in the world. And I just want to say that I made a comment on my Facebook page yesterday in regards to a conflict that is happening in the southern Cameroons, or as many call it, Amazonia. And I wanted to say this. I made the post yesterday, and I recognize that I was a little bit too harsh in my post, and this was done for good reason. This was coming from a place of raw emotion as somebody who has been actively involved in trying to define this conflict for the international community and for a great deal of our people over the last 4 years. So seeing what I saw that was blatantly misleading, although coming from a place of good intentions from those who were putting this up, I thought that I had to come out and say something, and I had to say it the way I felt it and right the way, and that's how I said it. So I just want to say that out loud in case anybody's wondering. And I want to go ahead and provide some clarity for those who may not have understood what is actually going on and where this is coming from. First of all, I want to say this: the conflict that is going on currently in southern Cameroon and Bazonia, or as many people would like to call it, the Cameroons, is a long-standing issue that has been for over 50 something years. So the fact that it has come to a head and a conflict is now brewing in that region for the last 4 years, that has led to the loss of lives of over 13,000 people. Over a million people are internally displaced. There are over 65,000 refugees in Nigeria and neighboring countries as a result of this conflict. There are a million children who have been out of school for 4 years as a result of this conflict. And so you can understand when, for 4 years, a lot of individuals, including myself, have been working tirelessly to define the situation for the international community and for all stakeholders whose support and active advocacy we need to bring a just, positive peace to end this conflict and to restore a just, positive peace in the southern Cameroon. You can understand our frustration when people who do not understand this conflict jump on to support something that's trending on social media and inadvertently end up mischaracterizing or misleading people from what the real origins or how this conflict should be defined so that everybody understands and we can work towards a solution. So I'm going to take some time at the end of the show today, that is at the bottom of the show, to talk a little bit about this conflict, to bring clarity. I'm going to update our viewers about the origins of this conflict. I'm going to provide some knowledge so that people who want to advocate and speak about it can have the information they need to be able to talk about it in a way that doesn't alienate others or trigger other people who have been invested and working in this. And also, I would like to address certain ways in which, if you want to advocate or if you want to lean your voice towards the peaceful settlement or to bringing back a permanent positive peace or a permanent solution to this crisis and conflict, how you can contribute that voice and how you can contribute your efforts. So all of this will be brought to you at the end, towards the end of the show. Let's bring in our co-host and let's bring in our other guests who are here today so that we can kick off this show. Wes, you're welcome.
How's it going? All right, yeah. So really heavy subject to lead with, but necessary to talk about. That's what we're all about at Unfiltered. So yeah, moving into other important subjects. Kaya, what are you here to share with us today?
Hi. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important, as Mark touched on, to look at how we're advocating for things and what kind of what we're communicating when we're posting online. So I just that really struck a chord with me today. I thought we could talk a little bit about student culture, just shifting the topic a little bit. I'm here with Raphael Chipman. He has some experience working as a student with his school administration in order to create a safer, more comfortable space for students. And I think, the topic of student culture is really important right now, especially as, things are changing within schools. So yeah, Raph, can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get
For
started?
sure. Thank you so much, Kaya. My name is Raphael Chipman. As Kaya just said, I am a grade 12 student and I am in the IBRE program. I am an artist. I am also a community advocate for students within my school. I work specifically with LGBT, queer, and trans youth in making a safer space within public school environments.
Great,
And
thanks
that's
for joining us.
Really important work. Like it's really very admirable. So yeah, I know that you raise issues with our school administration. You talk with them, you have mediations, and you're continuing to work with them. Can you tell me like a little bit about that and maybe share?
Yeah, of course. So within public school environment, issues that come up are pretty unique to a sort of public school environment simply because of the culture that exists within them. Public schools are pretty incomparable to like any other sort of like space that exists within society just because so many different types of young people are coexisting in a very small space with very little choice to be there. And that is a bit of a constraint. And especially with the youth of today, we want to make sure that people can feel as safe and supported as possible, which is very difficult. I work with people to get basic needs met, such as having different types of bathrooms open for students who need them. I also work with students who need administrative support in things like name changes. I work with students who need support in their gender identity, but also in the way that they present in school. I also help people who have been harassed in the past and work with school administration to make the school a safer place so it can sort of like lead on and we can prevent things from happening in the future.
And I think, something that we've talked about is like the role of administration in, cultivating that student culture, in like creating that space that's safe for everyone and then encouraging students to participate in that space actively. So I was just wondering, how important would you say student culture is in creating these spaces?
For sure. Student culture, I'd say, is like integral to having these spaces. It's really hard for administration, like individuals in a position of power, to like intuitively know what students need just because of factors such as age gaps, such as culture gaps, just things that change over the years. Like that's really just how culture works. It evolves, it's constantly changing with the people who are in it, who are living it. So having students who are willing to talk to people in positions of power is incredibly important. And I think it's incredibly important for students also to foster sort of like a legacy of work because high school is very transitory. You go in for 3 years, 3 or 4 years, and then you leave. So you have to make sure that if you're doing important work, that someone else is also there to like keep that going.
I think that's like a really interesting point to hit on there is like how much of this is reliant on students creating that path for other students and creating that space for other students
For sure.
to do the work that they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of the time we go into these environments expecting the administration to just have it all figured out
For sure.
and know what we need. And so it can be frustrating, especially being in a minority group when they don't know how to handle that.
For sure, yeah.
So yeah, do you have any advice for students who want to do that, who want to speak with their administration?
Yeah, honestly, I can't give any like one size fit all advice, but honestly, if you have an issue that you're passionate about and that you think needs to address, like bring it up. A lot of the time, school administration is looking for that support, is looking for that help, but doesn't really know how to access it. It's kind of difficult being in a position of power, but also feeling like you don't have an in with students in an important way. So if you feel like you have an issue that you need to bring up, just email your principal, email your guidance counselor, ask where you need to go. If you can get teachers who support you to go behind you and rally with you, that's incredibly helpful. I'll really just go for it, and you can make a difference in any environment that you occupy.
Yeah, that's actually brings me to another question that I like hadn't thought about before. Is parents? How are parents? Because I know students, especially in high school, we're entering a stage in our lives where we're slowly moving away from our parents. Not entirely, obviously, but I do know that a lot of the viewership here is older, maybe have kids. How can parents, encourage that in their children?
That's a really interesting question. I think parents, just if you raise your child to ask questions, let them know that it's not bad to ask why. Like, why is this a thing? If you think about the world that we live in and the like places that you are, you can really start to see and like wonder why things are the way they are. And there's a lot of systems that exist that really don't have any foundation in reality for the way that they the way that they operate.
Yeah.
So it's really important like to raise kids who ask questions, raise kids who have open minds. If you just introduce your children to different concepts at a young age. There's really very few taboo subjects. Just answer their questions, give them a space to think. I think that's incredibly important in raising children who will make a difference.
I agree with you. That's so important, especially when we're talking about student culture, is like having an environment full of people who have had access to knowledge of different ways of living and different ways of being, who, you know, having administration who has thought about all of the different, you know, possible needs of their students, having, you know, people who are willing to be open-minded is such a big, I think also as teenagers, we tend to be more judgmental of each other.
A little bit,
Because we're, you know, figuring out how we want to be in the world. And so I think that's, you know, incredibly important, especially now that everything is changing. Everything is different because of COVID.
For sure.
So actually, can you speak to how COVID, you know, has changed accessibility in schools?
Of course. So that's like a very loaded question. Just I'm going to preface with that. COVID is different everywhere across the world right now. I know that there's viewers who are coming from all different walks of life and from a whole lot of different places. From where we are, the COVID pandemic is so that in-person classes are happening in public schools, but with COVID guidelines. So I'm in school 5 days a week with mandatory masks all throughout class. Lunch is encouraged to be outside. That's just sort of like a basic rundown of what's happening. But in terms of the culture of school, everything is very different because there's really very little opportunity and room for socialization, which is, I know, very difficult just for friend groups who are already established. But in terms of students who are trying to connect with people that think in the same way that they do, or to try and find support, it's been very difficult. There's not a lot of like connection between grade levels. Friend groups are becoming tighter. And in terms of support for students, it's been very challenging because the school nurses have been pulled and sent into the public health realm, which I think is definitely a problem within our school.
Yeah. Well, it's really important that you touch on that too, is like, because I was going to ask you, you know, what advice would you give to people who are entering a new space where they, you know, might not be fully able to express themselves or need something that's not provided? And a big part of that is like having older students who have experienced the same thing, having, you know, supports within the school, having a school nurse to talk to, having, you know, clubs and activities, and that's limited now. So do you have any other advice for anyone who's like either sending a kid into a space where maybe they're worried about that person's, you know, self-expression, or worried about that person's safety or comfort, or for a new student, or for, you know, just in general?
I'd say honestly, again, like I can't give one size fit all advice, but you might have to take some risks if you are entering a new environment. And honestly, if you're just willing to, like, if you see someone who you think, like if you see an older student, like go up to them and talk to them. That's, again, not the best advice, but during the pandemic, things are very strange and unique. Just try and connect on a human level, ask people questions, talk to your teachers, talk to your parents. If you know of any resources that exist within a school, seek them out. In terms of advice for parents, like if you have a student who would, like, for instance, just like speaking from my experience, fall into like the LGBT community, see if the school that they are being sent to has like pre-existing support. Talk to the teachers, talk to the administration. They should be able to set people up with that. And that's incredibly helpful. Yeah.
Well, I think that, you know, at the end of the day, like everyone wants, especially when we're going into, you know, we're in a fragile place already with all of the, you know, outside political things going on, with the pandemic, with everything like that. Everyone wants security, and everyone wants to feel welcome to be who they are. And so, you know, creating those environments is really, really important. And like I said, like I really admire your work to do that for other students. I know that like it's a scary time for everyone, and especially like being in high school, and whether you're, you know, in the middle of being in your schooling, or you're looking to wrap it up, or you just started, it's, you know.
It's a difficult time for everyone, but I know among all the instability, people are finding ways to pull through and like cultivate spaces that they can thrive in, for sure.
And that's due to leadership like you're demonstrating right now. This is like really conscientious, powerful stuff that you're talking about. You know, my research and interests lie in how people can democratize institutions that impact their everyday lives. Like you said, you know, students don't have any choice to be there, which is kind of a funny thing to think about, how they're, you know, you're kind of imprisoned within this institution, but this institution is also meant to, you know, develop people, and so it's really important for that educational process to be made participatory and really touch on some of these things you've talked about today. This has been really great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yes,
Ralph.
thank you, Kaya and Ralph. I hope you both are planning to have a good Halloween celebration. That is,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We'll see.
Within guidelines.
Within COVID guidelines, yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. And fellow viewers, that is Kaya Pantier, and we look forward to very engaging segment she's been doing over the last a few weeks. And so we look forward to the next one.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
All right. All the best. So yeah, today's next guest, Mr. Sam Fraser, is a good friend of mine, though we've only met a little bit over a year ago. We invited Sam on the show because of his specialization in game design. Sam also has expertise in accounting, tech solutions, and organizational change. And while I benefited from those skills while we were working together, I most enjoyed Sam's interest in games as a way to develop deeper human relationships. You can get a glimpse at some of Sam's inventions on growgiantgames.com, a website currently under construction, Mind Games, Kickstarter, and many other game, community, and online market websites. Sam has been described as perhaps the truest modern polymath with a unique skill set in budgeting, ecology, and systems thinking. Sam could often be found organizing lunchtime game sessions at his office, the Ecology Action Centre, or organizing a time travel dinner party with friends. He is, among all things, someone who is hard to pin down with a simple introduction, but is by all accounts a thoughtful leader who brings warmth and levity to the most challenging situations. Sam is also politically engaged and set on creating a better society. Exploring how his interests in game design overlap with these ambitions is something that makes me most interested in today's conversation, but I'm also looking forward to just having some good old-fashioned fun. Sam, welcome to Unfiltered.
Thanks so much, Wes. That's a really lovely introduction. I very much appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for including me. I'm thrilled to be here on Unfiltered with Chebs, and just bringing in the notion of games and game design into a significant conversation like this. I appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah, I see some potential for connection between the subjects, and so I'd be interested in exploring that further and how we each see the connections. So let's start off with what games have you designed and where do you draw your inspiration from?
Sure. So I've self-published one game called Rogues to Riches, which this was back 2015 or so, and that's the game that I've taken the farthest into the mainstream marketplace. I've got a bunch of other prototypes and little experiments as well. But Rogues to Riches, had some measure of popularity around the town, and I was able to get it nationally distributed. And it's a storytelling game. Everybody is a thief, and you come up with your own solution to the obstacles that you face. And it's very playful, and there's a lot of creativity and problem solving involved. And it's a lot of fun, and it challenges you in ways that a lot of other games don't challenge you. It doesn't have the sort of mathematical, analytical component that a lot of other games do. So
I can vouch for how fun it is since we played it that time at my place together. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, that was a great time. So, and in terms of the inspiration, there's a game that a lot of people are familiar with called Magic: The Gathering, which kind of came out at the right time for me. I was in high school when it came out, and it caught on like wildfire, and I enjoyed it for a time, but I kind of soured on it when I realized that there was this sort of like capitalist system built into it. Like if you wanted to play competitively or even sort of stay ahead of things, so you had to spend a lot of money on this game, and I wanted to create a game, or to be fair, I wanted to play a game where you could have a sense of novelty every time you played, but you didn't have to spend the money to get that novelty. So I set out trying to create that game, and you know, some degree of success in doing that.
Great. So what defines a good game in your mind?
Oh, gee. Well, I think a good game is, you know, there's any number of definitions for that. My definition, I think, would be a game that accomplishes what it sets out to do. So, you know, the objective of a game and the game designer is to create a certain type of experience. And if the game fulfills that experience, then it's a good game, you know, from one perspective. And of course, like a good game might not be enjoyed by everybody. It's whatever that experience is will appeal to different people. So yeah, for example, you have games where the you know, the experience that is created as a social experience that's fun, that's, you know, loose and silly, like Pictionary or something like that. And then you have games where the experience is very analytical, even stressful, where people are strategizing and negotiating and calculating and breaking out their spreadsheets, taking notes, and for a lot of people that's a really valuable, fun experience. So and both are, you know, certainly types of really good games, because the games bring about the experience that some people are looking for. So I get a thrill out of a game that you know, introduces me to an experience that I hadn't really had before. You know, that wonder and awe of sitting down at a table and, like, you know, being like a feelings that I didn't expect to feel. You know, it's you know, it can be quite exciting.
Like Twister.
Yeah,
like twist.
that's a classic. Yeah, yeah.
So which games dominate in the McFarlane household, Chubbs?
Well, we do play a lot of board games.
Mhm.
You know, we have a lot of board games. During the height of the pandemic, we found a number of games that you could stream. So we could play using Zoom with our friends from other parts of the country and the world. But lately, I think that was my wife found this game where she downloaded, and it's you can play with 4 people onwards, and it's more or less like it's a social game, but it's more or less like, you know, telling who's out of the loop, and it gives you a series of questions and things you got to follow and directives, and then you follow up with a discussion, and then you make decisions, and then you review all the decisions. So, you know, we try to play a lot of different games in this household.
Awesome.
Cool. And Sam, did you have anything to say? Maybe we'll get into the demo.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm happy to fire that up. Maybe a word of introduction. We're going to have a look at a prototype game that I'm working on called the Foggy Map. It's not really quite like anything else that I've come across. There are no winners and losers. There's no right or wrong answer. So it like pushes the definition of game, I would say, and I think some people would say, oh, it's not a game. It's a, you know, it's a toy or it's an activity or whatever. And, you know, they can, you know, I'm going to call it a game. And it's a lot of fun. So it is a social game. It's just a series of prompts and questions that you respond to and interact with. And you know, listening to Raf earlier, he was talking about the, you know, human connection, and that's what I want to create too. And I think the Foggy Map does a good job at creating an opportunity to have really interesting conversations and to connect with other people. Well, let's just find out if it works. You know, I'm confident. Let's see if it holds up. So we're gonna switch over. I'm gonna share my screen. We're gonna switch over to a platform called Roll20, which is an online program designed for role-playing games. You know, you can make your maps and you know, do your thing. So I've uploaded the Foggy Map cards to this platform. So let's give it a whirl. And then anybody who's still on the call can participate. I'm hoping we'll have a good session here. So here we go. Okay, so did that come through? Is everybody looking at a white grid there? Foggy map, roll 20?
Yes, we are looking at the white grid.
Success. Okay, so this is like a blank table here. On the right-hand side, we've got a bunch of different types of cards. And I'm going to be, steering the ship on this one. I'll draw the cards and facilitate this. So here we go. All right, so our first, oh, that's a good one. Our first metaphor is it's a combination of an adjective and a noun, and oh, come on now.
That's a good one.
It's a great one. Yeah. Okay. So there's always two questions on the table. This one, what does blank make you think of? That's always available. So, and then there's this third one, which changes around. So this is sort of our setup here. So Chebs, I'm going to nominate you as the person to go first and putting you in the hot seat there. So there's a couple things. I'll lay out what you can do. The metaphor is the healing seed, and you can simply say what the healing seed makes you think of, or you can respond to this question here. You have been asked to make a healing seed. What is your first step? So let me zoom in here a little bit. Maybe we can make it a bit bigger. Yeah, that's great. And then, or you can change one of these three elements. You can change the noun, you can change the adjective, or you can change the question. So over to you. What do you think?
All right. So I've been tasked
to make a healing seed.
Okay.
What do you think?
And what do I need to use to make that seed?
Just you got whatever you want to do. You can your wish is your command. You can use your imagination. You can use your memory. Whatever comes to your mind. There's no right or wrong answer. So just whatever you make you think of. And then also you have this other question too. If it you can just say what pops into your head when you think of the seed.
It makes me think of like a herbal medicine.
Okay. Like
herbal plant, let's say that.
Absolutely.
Like the one behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. My partner's a naturopathic doctor, so we actually have a ton. Actually, let's see if I can pull this back here.
All right. And then is there a term rotation? Oh, what?
Wow.
Nice. Those are all seeds.
We should call you Sam the herbalist.
Yeah. So that's it. Nice work. Success. Wes, do you want to take a go? And again, you can change one of the three elements. You can change the healing part, the seed part, or the question if you want to, or you can stay where we're at.
I think that I would like to change the noun.
All righty. Okay, so we have the healing scientist.
Yeah. So, and then do I answer the question what that makes me think of?
Yeah, or this weird one here. You've been asked to make a healing scientist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to make a healing scientist, I think we need a well-resourced public education system and really open embrace of scientific discovery. Of course, overseen through a democratic process and really using all the knowledge that is being produced by people working hard in science, and also a shout out to those working in vaccinology and people doing all that hard work during the pandemic.
Right on. How about you, Raph? Do you want to take a turn?
All right, sure. Can I change the noun?
Yes, indeed.
Oh.
Healing pipe. Ooh, where are you going to go with that?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh.
This is unfiltered, remember?
Yeah.
What does a healing pipe make me think of? Well, well, healing pipes really making me think of weed. That's it. I'm so sorry.
All good.
Oh man, yeah.
Kaya, do you want to have a go?
Sure. Can I change the noun? Can I?
The next one is
Snail. Oh, okay.
Are you gonna make a healing snail?
Oh, should I make one?
I think you should make a
kinda-
healing snail.
Okay. Well, that's hard. I feel like I want to do what does it make me think of?
Okay.
Because it makes me think of I used to have an aquarium
Okay.
with a bunch of snails. And I don't know, I found it very, relaxing, restorative to just kind of sit and feed my snails
A friend of mine kept
fruits and
slugs.
vegetables and stuff. It was really, nice. So I guess that.
And question, did you two know that about each other before, that you had the aquarium and you had the slugs?
No.
Not at all.
So,
There we
you
go.
Connection made.
There you go.
okay. I'll take a turn. And what do we got? Oh no, actually, I wanted to change the adjective. Oh shoot, where did the adjectives go? The adjectives have disappeared, so that's unfortunate. So, oh my goodness gracious.
Prototypes.
Prototypes, indeed. Okay, well, there's. All right, well, I'll change the question at least. Also, we've kind of lost the table here. Bear with me for a moment, please. It's kind of too bad we lost the adjectives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should have been an interesting mix.
There's a ton of good ones.
Yeah, maybe we could, did someone want to contribute a new adjective?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go with this one. All right. So a healing snail is my nemesis. How did it wrong you? So I'm imagining, like a snail in a hut in the middle of the woods, a large snail with like a cauldron that's steaming over, and it's brewing up some kind of a batch of good stuff that heals you. But somehow the snail oh my goodness, they healed okay, I don't know where I'm going. They healed a warrior. They brought this warrior back to life from the brink of death, and that warrior like grew up and grew strong, and then like stabbed me. And so if it wasn't for that healing snail, I would not have been attacked by that other warrior person. Where I don't know what.
I can understand the resentment.
Pardon me?
I can understand the resentment.
Yeah. So I don't know why the warrior person isn't my nemesis, but the healing snail is. But there we go. So let's do one more round, perhaps, and then we can, get back to the chat. What do you think?
All right, Chubbs, you're next.
All right. I would like to change the question.
Oh, there are the adjectives. The adjectives are back if you want to change the adjective. So we'll
All
change
right.
the.
Let's go to the adjectives then.
All right. Okay. Ooh, what's a good one? The aggressive snail.
That makes me think of like the snails that are defending all the other snails that are being harvested for food, right? They're probably using the pointy tip of their shells to like poke at the people's legs or something, just to, cause them unease so that they don't harvest its bodies for food.
Right on. Love it. Who's next? Is that you, Wes?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to change the noun because that's fun.
Okay.
You never know what's going to come out of there.
Ooh.
aggressive
the aggressive knife.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So these on the nose ones are when you're kind of like, oh, of course the knife's aggressive, or something like that. But you know, I think that the aggressive knife in the town of knives is actually the one that gives all the knives a bad rep. And a lot of other knives, like utility knives, and even the machetes, which are a functional tool, are just kind of like, man, stop giving us a bad rep. You have to go around, stop poking people, you know, and you know, brushing past people and stuff. You're the aggressive knife, and you're giving everyone a bad rep.
What a bully.
Yeah. And they think just because they're pointy, they have to be aggressive, but it's not true.
Raph, how about you?
Oh, can I change the noun again? That's been pretty entertaining.
Ooh, the aggressive bird.
Ooh. Aggressive bird. Well, a shout out to anyone my generation. I instantly thought of Angry Birds. I'm thinking, no longer thinking of Angry Birds though. I'm thinking of a bird in my backyard attacking another bird's nest and just being a kid, just watching birds having fights in my backyard and wondering, like, I don't know. I thought if you were a bird, your life would be easier, but I guess birds are having conflict too. And that was when I grew up a little. No. Yeah.
Another illusion shattered.
Yeah.
Kaya, what do you think?
I think. Can I change the question?
Certainly. Oh, forget that one. Ignore that for a minute. All right, question. Okay.
Your child is playing with aggressive bird as a toy. What is your secret? No, that's actually really funny. It really reminds me of like when I was a little kid and I go to the public gardens and like put my fingers in with the geese. I guess my warning would be don't do that. It's not nice to the animals and it's not nice to you. I'd also be a little concerned if my child was using a bird as a toy. Like, I think that would maybe be some therapy sessions. We'd have
check
to
out the like psychopathic tendencies there. Yeah.
There's that.
Geese are vicious.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I did the same things with the fingers in the gate with the geese. I did the same thing.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I think kids like to put their like hands in wherever they can get to. So
there are no geese at petting zoos, if you notice. All right, so I'll wrap. I'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it up, I think.
All right.
So the confusing bird. Wow. Okay. Gee whiz. The confusing bird makes me think of like Roadrunner, you know, and the old Wile E. Coyote cartoons, you know. Everybody roots for Roadrunner, I guess. But I seem to remember at one point, like he got pinwheels for eyes, you know, and like, I don't know, maybe it was Wile E. Coyote running into a boulder and then he got those like funny, pinwheels, like stars in his eyes. So I would say that the Roadrunner confuses Wile E. Coyote very, very successfully. And big fan of those cartoons as a kid. You know, there's nothing else like them. Nothing ever will be. So there you go. The confusing bird makes me think of Roadrunner.
Wow, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it's a simple layout, but can lead to so much depthy conversation.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Right. It's a very interesting game. So when does this come out so that we can?
What a fantastic question, Chebs. Thank you. I'm gonna stop the sharing here. I think. Pause share. Stop share. Here we go. So I've put together a prototype, which you can get at growgiantgames.com/the-foggy-map.
All right. If you just take that one more time so that our viewers can check it out. Fellow viewers, we've just been watching a demonstration of a game developed by our guest, and here's how you can access it and also have a chance to enjoy, as we've been doing, beta testing this game.
You're using up time like a champ, but yeah, I think we lost Sam just for a second. He'll probably come back. So what did that game make you feel, Jeb? So we wait for Sam to get back in.
Uh, it actually just exactly what you said. I think that more so than ever now in the times that we are in, we need a lot of things that could provide us with opportunities to have conversations, but but also fun. So that it's less tense and we have substantive conversations while not creating a tense atmosphere so that people are scared to fully engage and say what's in their minds and how they're feeling about the issues. So I thought that this game was a good way to facilitate some of that kind of environment. What did you
Yeah,
think?
and with the variations in the terms, you'd never have the same game, and so you'd have these different metaphors. I think was the term Sam was using.
Right.
And each time you play, that would lead to new conversations each time, or you would have maybe some favorite combinations that would reoccur every once in a while, like the watery knife or something like that. I'll never forget that one when I got that in the game one time. And yeah, it's like it's once again, as with so many things, it's beauty is in its simplicity, and it's simple layout. I have a copy myself, which is just a deck of cards. I have a hard copy, and you sort them into the piles. And yeah, just you could pop that out anywhere on a train, on a party night with friends, or in a library, or during a study break or something like that, and it keeps the mind active. So I think that game does a lot.
Right. And I like the way the sort of arrangement where there is a question and there is also what you're feeling, because oftentimes when we engage in conversation, and I've just been learning that from some workshops that I've been doing on the issue, what happens is sometimes we talk about something, but it's not exactly the way we're feeling. It's just our mental, it's our logical reasoning of what we think we're analyzing. But when you ask people the opportunity, when you give people the opportunity to tell you how they feel about something, and
Mm-hmm.
also the opportunity to now tell you from their logical analysis and reasoning what they think, those could be two completely different things. And you see that that would aid us in conversation about some very tough topics, because then you're not misinterpreting what somebody is saying, or you're not personalizing it, you're not attributing what they're saying to their person necessarily, but you're seeing that this is what I feel about this, but this is my contribution in terms of how I think it operates. So it's a really interesting game. I like it.
Yeah.
Thanks, chaps. Appreciate that. I'm back in the action. Sorry
Yes.
for
Welcome back.
Zoom troubles.
Yeah, welcome back. We were making our stabs at it, but maybe you could elaborate on kind of what affects games like that or other games that you like. What effects can they have on people, either on an individual level, a group level, even on a broader cultural level? Just to elaborate on that a little bit, a basic function of games is to kind of, just have fun with some friends and kind of get over the broader complexities of life and just kind of have a simple, fun time, distract you from that. Or they can be used to develop our understanding of these problems and how they can ultimately overcome. So yeah, I'm interested in your take on that.
Sure. Yeah, it's a really good question, and I want to bring in the notion of play in this conversation. Like play is a verb. We associate it with playing games all the time, but I think there's another meaning of play, sort of like a capital P play, which is it's what lion cubs do. It's what I don't know, maybe insects. A lot of animals, including us, we play, but I think it's good to remind ourselves a little bit of what how play can be really different from just simply sitting down at a board game and doing the following the steps. So I think that play is really there's no goal, there's no structured goal, there's no end result in an actual capital P play session. You know what I mean? It's really about yourself or a group of people being creative, being silly, being totally present in the moment, and just seeing what happens, what the imagination comes up with, what and it doesn't have to be necessarily childish or with kids. I mean, like, adults play all the time with different problems, with conversations. But again, I think it's a really important distinction to say that there's no end result, which is quite different from most board games where there is a goal to achieve, whether it's winning usually or something else. But so to come back to your question, I think that we need more play in our lives in general as humans. Play only happens when you feel safe, when you feel when you've given full consent to participate. If you can't really fully truly play if you're feeling bullied or stressed or oppressed in some way, or if you don't feel safe, if you feel vulnerable or exposed, it's really, really hard to get into that zone of play. So, and that's creating that feeling of play is something that I'm trying to do with some of these game designs, where there are no right or wrong answers, where people can draw on, as Jebs, as you were saying, draw on any of that personal experience to come up with something that's truly individual. And as you say, you can't be misinterpreted if you're speaking genuinely from your own experience. So, the foggy map, I think one of the things I like about it is that it's really surprising what people will vibe on, what will resonate with people. Like the healing snail. Well, what was Kaya had some, that anecdote about the healing snail in the aquarium. It's like, I love to hear those anecdotes where people are reaching back into the past and saying, oh yeah, this was actually like a really good experience for me. There was something really grounding and healing about that experience at the aquarium. And absolutely, so even just being reminded of that experience, dropping back into the body to feel that feeling again, even after, and whatever, how many years it would have been, and then communicating with other people to say, yeah, this was a time when I felt really whole and human and grounded. I mean, like, that's hugely powerful. And I think I love participating in conversations like that. And I think there's some real value, again, as you say, at the individual, right up to, organization or even wider, where we can speak from the heart and speak honestly and play with each other, play with our words and our conversations with people, and to develop that sense of connection and that feeling of safety and play. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that stood out to me is games or play helps you be in the moment. And that's something that people so often don't do in their day-to-day lives is take appreciation for the moment that they're in that moment at that time. And so that's, there are other skills, that lesser used skills that games can help people develop.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, I think, games, as I mentioned earlier, there's so many different experiences that games try to help people feel, convey those different experiences. So all of which require certain skills. The foggy map requires a little bit of thinking on your feet and a little bit of, speaking and wordplay and like that kind of skill. So there's definitely some language skills that happen with foggy map. But then there's also like spatial awareness skills when you're playing like Tetris style games, and there's math, arithmetic, and stuff when you're playing more numbers based games, or strategic games involve like probabilities when you're like, yeah, there's so many skills that are developed when you sit down to play a game, and they do convey to the real world. They cross over. So there's definitely real skill building when you sit down to play a challenging game. Even like something as simple as Pictionary, like it's when you get up in front of the board to draw your thing, regardless of how good an artist you are, it takes gumption to get up there and say, hey, I'm going to draw, like a skunk or whatever it is, right? So, and try to communicate with the pencil with other people. Like, that's hard to do, and developing that skill is huge. So,
yeah,
I'm a big advocate for for gameplay as a way to develop skills.
Yeah. Go ahead,
I was going to ask, do you see a future where we use game design to influence or to put front and center some of the more uh, tough, difficult cultural issues that we deal with on a regular basis? Um, Perhaps as a way to immerse people who cannot have the lived experience, give them a way to be able to experience some form of the experiences around some of the critical issues. And I'm talking about, issues of inequality. I'm talking about issues of discrimination. I'm talking about issues around people in conflict regions, and what they're going through. Do you see a future where we could use game design to sort of put people in these real spaces and to help them get some level of understanding and sympathy with the people that experience this in real life?
That's a wonderful question. Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's happening in the present. There's a lot of things I want to say on that one. So first of all, you brought up the notion of like sympathy, and having compassion for other people when in difficult situations that we ourselves, like I myself, might not be able to experience firsthand. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, that games are metaphors. They are representations of experiences in the world. So, for example, to take a very rudimentary example, Monopoly is a metaphor for real estate, and gathering money and doing this thing. So it kind of puts you in the shoes of a buyer or a developer, whatever it is. So all games are metaphors in some way. It's something that I believe, and they try to give you an experience that you wouldn't normally have. So there's a game that I've never played and never will play, but I read about it, and it opened up a lot of channels in my head. It blew my mind, as it were. And I think it's simply called Train. And I'm going to do a quick Google to see if I can find the designer. I think her name is Brenda. Just one moment. Yeah, I think this is it. Brenda Romero, I think is her name. So I'll just talk a little bit about this game Train. And I think it'll convey something of what I feel and answer your question. So the Train game is she just made one version of it. It's not a mass appeal game. It's like an experiment. And the idea with Train is that as many passengers as possible to the destination. And the components are nice. They're little plastic or wooden. The passengers are represented by little pieces of wood and so on. And then as you play the game, you're asked to put more and more passengers into these cars in order to get to the destination. And very quickly you realize that your train cars don't have enough space for these passengers because they physically take up room. They're three-dimensional objects. So eventually you're instead of putting them in the seats in the little train car, you're sort of stacking them as if you were to stack wood. And so everybody's, having a good time trying to get more and more passengers into the train car. And then, as you're going through the destination deck, you realize that the last card is actually a concentration camp, and you're taking all these people to a concentration camp. They're going to be in prison and worse. So I find that a really remarkable and very, very powerful metaphor that puts the player in the situation where they are the wrongdoer, the evil, organization that is ferrying these people to the gas chamber. And I think that that's a very extreme, profound way that games can be used and game designs can be used to give experiences to people that they normally wouldn't have. Brenda's point was not that she wanted this to happen, but she wanted people to have that visceral, emotional reaction to that awful feeling Yeah. So I think that's a really good example of what games can do for society at large.
That does sound impactful. I'm sure we could do a whole episode on this question, but maybe you could fill us in briefly on who is James P. Carse?
Oh, right. Yeah. So James P. Carse is an author and a philosopher, and I think he was a minister or religious leader of some kind. And he wrote a book that I kind of use as a touchstone for some of my design principles. His idea was that he has a book called Finite and Infinite Games. And the sort of the basic concept of this book is that there are any number of finite games which we all participate in the world at all times. For example, in addition to just like a standard board game or a sports game where there is an outcome that everybody's working toward and boundaries that we must stay within in order to fully participate in the game, but that notion can be applied to other situations like a workplace where we are working within certain boundaries or rules, and we're trying to achieve an end result. Like we're trying to win, we're trying to reach the goal. In a workplace environment, that might be get a raise or become the boss or get a new job, whatever it is. And he makes a really compelling argument that if we're not playing within the boundaries, sort of these unspoken boundaries of whatever that finite game is, then we're cheaters. And he also brings up relationships between two people as another example of a finite game, where if you go outside the boundaries, if you cheat, in the terms of a relationship, that's the word cheating takes on the notion of adultery there, and then if you cheat, then you're not playing the game fairly, and you don't deserve the title, the goal of being a husband or a wife or a partner, which is sort of the goal of a relationship finite game. So as I say, he makes a very compelling argument that we're all involved in these finite games, and then of course contrasts that with the notion of an infinite game, which in my interpretation comes back to this notion of play, where instead of working toward a single outcome that you haven't defined, me as a player, I haven't defined the goal of the workplace. I haven't defined the goal of a relationship. I haven't defined the goal of a culture or an economy. I'm simply a participant who must play within the boundaries. But if I'm an infinite player, or I choose to play, then I sort of open myself up to the opportunity of playing outside the boundaries and playing with.
Well, we were getting into the thick and thin of that conversation there with our guest, Mr. Sam Fraser. Hopefully, this technical issue is resolved so he can join us back. In the meantime, West, what were your thoughts?
Well, just another fascinating theme for another fascinating episode. We're talking about games on a broader scale, broader cultural level, and capital P play, and how that there's Sam was talking about there's not enough of that in regular cultural practice, at least in our corner of the world currently. And trying to amp up that culture of capital P play with some really interesting game design, and that's a cultural participatory project. So I'm really happy that Sam was able to join us today. I don't think he'll be joining us back on the screen, but I think all our viewers can agree that was another great episode. And Chebs, I wish you all the best in the next segment, and I will watch with great interest.
Okay, thank you very much, and I agree. Very great episode. We should endeavor to have Sam back to explore this topic further. It seems there is a lot that we could do, or a lot of conversations we could have just from this topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
all right. Well,
Sam is back.
Well, have him back in so he can say bye to the viewers.
Right.
Hey, Sam, welcome back.
Sorry, gang. I was on a roll there, and my internet capped out.
Yeah, but the significance, the implication of what you were saying definitely landed. You know, thinking about boundaries and playing with those boundaries on an infinite game level, and it's led to another fascinating episode talking about capital P conceptions of play and broader games that we're playing, maybe without even knowing it.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Very succinct. Thank you.
Well,
All right, great. We're going to be signing off for the next segment. Sam, once again, thanks very much for joining us.
Oh, well, thanks for playing and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks again.
lovely. We'd love to have you back again.
Oh, anytime, Chebs. Yeah, no, I'm thrilled.
All right.
All the best in the next segment, Jebs.
All right. Thank you, fellow viewers. If you've been watching Unfiltered with Wes and Chaps hosting. We've had our guest, Sam Fraser, talking to us about game design, and you've heard we've explored a lot of issues around that. We had a segment from Kaya Pantier bringing to us our community vibes. And now, viewers, I'm going to touch on an issue that we haven't discussed a lot of it on this platform. And certainly in the coming months and weeks and episodes, we will create a room to explore this issue further. Consequently, I want to lead on opening this topic and setting it out for you. So at the start of the show, I talked about the conflict in Amazonia or the southern Cameroons. Many people would know that area of the world as the Republic of Cameroon, but to dive a little bit deeper into the history, just to provide some historical context, so that our viewers understand what we are talking about, and as we explore this issue further, that those who want to participate can participate from a position of understanding and knowledge. We've talked about the fact that too often when we engage in social justice movements and when we engage in it with all of our good faith to support a good cause or a positive cause for change, sometimes we come to these things without having the full understanding that maybe those who are actively involved in creating that change have. And so sometimes our bid to support or to lend our own contributions towards this effort ends up hampering, distorting, or causing problems for those who are actively on the ground or involved in trying to create this change. So what I'm saying here is this. When we engage in commentary or talking about issues around social justice, and I know many people understand this, it is always important to take some time to understand what the issue is before you address it, so that you don't trigger those who are involved in it and those who have suffered from it, so that your communications can come out clear. I'm saying all of this in reference to the post that I made yesterday. So I just want to bring some clarity to many of the folks who might want to understand the issue and want to support the cause. The issue is this. The issue in the Cameroons is a failed decolonization process. That is it. Cameroon was colonized by Britain, France, Germany successively. Germany starting and France and Britain after the war. So there is a long, complex history with the Cameroons. But the bottom line is that at the turn of the century, when many nations in Africa and around the world were becoming independent as to becoming self-governing, the territory called the Cameroons had been groomed to become two territories or two countries. So there was the Republic of Cameroon and there was the Southern Cameroon. The Southern Cameroons, also known as the former United Nations Trust Territory of the British Southern Cameroon. So at the turn of the century, as indicated, upon independence, these two territories, the Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon, reached a gentleman's agreement to form a federal union, or some will call it a federal union, others will say it was a confederation. In any event, I'm rushing through this. That is the brief history of where these two countries came from before joining themselves to becoming what is commonly referred to as the Republic of Cameroon, or Cameroon, or whatever appellation people refer to that territory that borders Nigeria, Central African Republic, and Congo to the south. Now, the issue, the crux of the matter is this: there is a conflict brewing, and the conflict that has been brewing for the last 4 years, that has led to the loss of 13,000 lives and counting, that has led to the displacement of over 1 million people, that has led to more than 1 million children not being able to attend school over the last 4 years, is directly the result of a failed decolonization process. Okay, that is it. So when we talk in terms of this crisis and we're looking at the solutions, we are looking at a negotiations or a mediation process that would resolve the conflict by addressing the root causes. Okay, so when you come into this fray and you describe what is happening in the Cameroons as Anglophone crisis, it sort of misses the point and triggers a lot of raw emotions, especially from people who have been actively engaged in trying to define this issue, not just for our own people, but also for the international community, whom we look up to come in, lend their voice, bring in their support, bring in the resources to bear so that we can attain a permanent positive peace, which is resolving this conflict. Okay, so if you're going to refer to the parties to this conflict, they have to be distinct, because the current regime of the government of Cameroon is doing everything in its might and strength and using all of its available resources to muddy the waters, to skew public understanding of the issues, so that it can remain a colonizing force as it currently is, colonizing the people of Southern Cameroon. So when you refer, yes, the people of the Southern Cameroons speak English. The people of the Southern Cameroons were, were groomed under the colonial regime of Britain, and that is why English is the primary language of the Southern Cameroons. And yes, while we were in the union with the French Cameroon, or the Republic of Cameroon, uh, the people of the Southern Cameroons were often referred to as Anglophones, okay? And that was because there was a distinction between those who were inherently English and those who came from the French tradition. That is the other folks from Cameroon. So when you, in trying to characterize this conflict, talk about Anglophones, you were sort of taking people back, way back, to when people from the Southern Cameroon saw themselves within the confines of that union. That time has long passed. 4 years ago, when this conflict started, the people of the Southern Cameroons were not asking for a separate nation. They were asking for the government of Cameroon to do what it needed to do to ensure that the citizens of what was called the Republic of Cameroon, the citizens who came originally from the Southern Cameroons, who were majority English speaking, that all of the marginalization, the oppression, the servitude that had been imposed on them by La République du Cameroon, that all of these issues be addressed. Okay, that was the first call. Now, the government of Cameroon paid no heed to it. The regime in place dismissed these aspirations of the people, and so the resentment grew. And what came out of that? People started advocating that, you know what, we are dissatisfied with the state of affairs, and we are dissatisfied that we are not even being listened to when we've asked for change. And what did that lead to? That led to the calls for a return back to the confederal status that was conferred on Cameroons in 1961 when the two sides decided to come together to become one country. Okay? So you see that we moved from an internal issue to a somewhat external issue. We moved from people seeing themselves as part of the Cameroonian polity to beginning to see themselves as separate and apart from the Cameroonian polity. All of this because of the regime's refusal to take steps to address the underlying issues. Okay? That has festered for so long, and suddenly we have moved from people wanting to return to a confederal situation to wanting to move back to each country being its own. All right? So now we have people who are saying, we no longer want to be part of this federation. We just want to go back to the way we were. We were an independent people. We were a sovereign nation called the Southern Cameroons, the first democracy, really true democracy in Africa. Over 3 times, there was peaceful transfer of power in the Southern Cameroon's government. Okay, this was when many nations in Africa were still having coup d'etats. There was conflict over peaceful transfer of power. There were 3 consecutive peaceful transfers of power within the sovereign state of the Southern Cameroon. Okay, so people are asking that we no longer go back to the one and indivisible Cameroon, that we are way past the stage of confederal or federal situation. And now we are at the stage where people are saying enough is enough. We are tired of the marginalization. We are tired of the oppression. We are tired of the killings, because for 4 years this conflict has raged. What are the numbers? Over 13,000 people killed, over 1 million displaced, and I've named a lot of the consequences that are happening. So why is this very important to clarify? It is because a lot of people have been working so hard, so tirelessly to try to define this issue for anybody who cares to know about it and who wants to offer assistance. So it is a very, very, very triggering thing for all of a sudden, because there was an event that happened, and I'm going to talk about it because it is also very important. Because of an event that happened yesterday, a lot of people are up in arms for good reasons, condemning the atrocity and trying to shine light on the issue. But the problem is that when you try to shine light on the issue and you inadvertently mischaracterize the issue, then you're not doing any good to what we are trying to accomplish. And that is the issue. So, for all my fellow folks out there who want to talk about the conflict in the Cameroons, specifically the war declared on the Southern Cameroons people, the ongoing genocide happening, if you want to talk about that, do not refer to the people of Southern Cameroons as Anglophones. It is triggering. Refer to the people of the Southern Cameroons as the people of the Southern Cameroons, or Ambazonians, as they have decided to call themselves. We do this because we want to create a distinction when anybody looks at the issue and when anybody reviews the historical facts. to know that we were a sovereign people and we are on the march to restore that sovereignty. All right. So in the next few episodes on this issue, I am going to take the time and I'm going to invite some folks who have been working hard on this so that we can take the time to have a conversation, to educate, to inform, and also to hear from the people who are interested in this issue, are interested in advocating on this issue, and were interested in hearing their contributions and their perspectives so that together we can work towards an end to this conflict. We can work towards restoring a permanent, positive, and just peace in the Cameroons. I think everybody wants peace. Everybody wants an end to the conflict. But what kind of peace do we want? Do we want peace just for the sake of peace? Or do we want a permanent, just peace that resolves this matter once and for all by addressing all of the root conflict? That is the issue. All right. So please, fellow viewers, keep watching this platform, engage with us on this platform, and together we will advocate for the marginalized, oppressed, destitute people of the Southern Cameroons and ensure that we are not obfuscating their plight in how we address them. We have to be clear. We have to have clarity on that. And if we have to speak on that, we have to speak authoritatively. I know some people might be angered. I know some people might be annoyed. But we have to say what we say directly without mincing words. The burden is not on the people of Southern Cameroons. The burden is not on the people of Southern Cameroons because they know their issue and they are actively advocating for that issue. The burden is on you. If you think that you know this issue sufficiently enough to speak about it and advocate for it, then do so. But ensure that when you do so, you do not misconstrue, misrepresent, mislead, or cause further complications for those who are really bearing the brunt of the battle to advocate for the people of the Southern Cameroons. So that is what is so triggering when we do social media activism from the position of, oh, I'm just going to support this because I think it's good, without really exploring the issues. I don't like to say bandwagoners, but I think that term very much characterizes what happens here. It is not enough. It is not enough to just say that, oh, because a bunch of my friends are putting out hashtags or advocating for something, I'm just going to do it because I look cool or because, I want to belong. No, it is honest to say that I don't know about this issue, so I'm not going to speak about it. That is more respectable. That is honest. And if you want to speak about an issue and advocate, then take the time to understand the issue so that your advocacy will be substantive and will not just be something that passes through the wind along with everybody else who wants to just say something and then move along. Meanwhile, that has very, very real consequences for those who are the front lines, for those who are at the forefront, bearing the brunt, fighting to define the issue, to put the issue out there, to attract more support for the issue. Now, some people might hear me say this and say, but what is wrong with that? If people just want to support, take whatever support you want. Yes, We like people to support issues. We like people to be engaged on social media activism and social activism and social justice activism, but we want you to do it right. Do it right. There is so much out there to distract from the problems of the world. So if you want to be engaged in it, do it right. And if you need to learn, then apply yourself to that and learn about it. It will be more meaningful. Thank you all for joining the show today. We will continue this conversation, and I am undertaking to do my part to educate anybody who wants to learn about this issue. I am undertaking to carry out an education campaign so that you can be informed, you can have the knowledge, you can understand the issues. And when you go out there to speak in whatever way you choose to advocate for this issue, you are going to be doing more good than harm. That is all. We want to put you in a position to do more good than to harm the cause that we are advocating for. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this Sunday evening. It has been a great show. I look forward to seeing you next week. We have a very, very interesting show coming up next week. Also, we are looking forward. I've made this announcement before here on Unfiltered. We are going to be starting a challenge to sort of support some communities around, communities that have need. And this challenge is going to revolve around local community groups that are working to support their local communities and the initiatives that they are putting in place to facilitate this support. We will be bringing some of these groups here, and we will put in place a challenge, and there will be a cash prize to support these groups if they win. Thank you. Have a lovely Sunday evening. Have a great rest of your week ahead. And I look forward to seeing you next week, Sunday, on Unfiltered. Have a great one. I'm your host here, Chuck McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host here, Chuck McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host here, Chuck McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host here, Chuck McFarlane. Welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host here, Chuck McFarlane. Welcome.